Hi. I want to welcome all the campuses that are joining us, and of course, Weekend on Wednesday. Oh, I love that. Dave forgot to mention that I played wide receiver in college on a Big Ten championship team. And looking at me now, you might think, what happened? Well, things shift over time. Things change unexpectedly. I should mention that in college, I mean seminary, and it was 10 teams in the intramural flag football. But it's very similar, very similar. Well, things do change and shift over time, and it means that we bump into these expected and unexpected shifts from time to time, and they can really throw us off. Some of them, they're coming, kids. You have kids, they grow up, things change. Things change. You know that's true. As a matter of fact, when those things change, it can rock your world a little bit. I'm an empty nester. I sleep with a grandmother, and she's hot. And when our daughter moved away, it was really hard. My wife, Carmen, struggled with it for a long time. I did too. It took me like almost an hour to get over it. She had a little harder time with it than I did, but I came across an interesting statistic the other day. U.S. census data from 2014. 35% of Americans between the ages of 18 and 34 were living with their parents in the United States. Now, specifically, these were non-contributing adult children living at home. But I've discovered that it's not just the United States, it's a global issue, and there's different names for them in different countries. Okay, 18 to 34 non-contributing adult living at home. Italians call them mama's boys. The Japanese call them parasite singles. In the U.S., one of the names we have for them is boomerangs. You say, get out of here, and they come back, And then my favorite one, in the United Kingdom, they're called kippers. Kids in parents' pockets eroding retirement savings. Now, they're sitting on the couch playing Xbox and wondering why there's not more food in the fridge, okay? They're not doing any laundry, they're not doing nothing to help. And I actually, from time to time, I'll have generally a mother who comes up to me after a service and says, Pastor Mike, I don't know what to do with my son. He's 25 years old, and all he does is just sit on the couch and play the Xbox, and he won't do anything to help, and he just eats everything. I don't know what to do. I said, well, I don't know, but I tell you what he's thinking. Great life, thanks, Mom. That's what he's thinking. What you need to do is help him. Well, I'm doing everything. Yeah, no, help him grow up. Kick his butt out. You're welcome. Now, I realize that there may be some single people, 18 to 34, living at home here. And you're thinking, shut up, dude. Why do they let these old people come here and talk? I get it. But those shifts, they happen. And then how we respond in these different seasonal shifts of life, they have everything to do with how we're growing, how we respond to these various changes, good and bad, that come our way. I know that now I'm 63 and I'm kind of semi-retired. My role is I'm pastor emeritus. Yeah, pastor emeritus. And what that means is I'm an advisor with no authority. And I said, I've been married 40 years. I know how to do that. I can do advisor with no authority, no problem. Well, I've learned some things in this season. One, I'm more patient. I'm learning to wait. I do it all the time. Every night, I get up 2-3 times, and I wait. And you can ask an old man in your life, what is he talking about? Yeah. Yeah, there's somebody, it's good. It's kind of slowly filtering through the crowd as to what I'm talking about. I heard one guy say it this way: I pee in Morse code. It's just dots and dashes. Now, that's already way more than you wanted to know. All right, so let's go, keep it moving. Well, last summer I was here, and then we went from Kenosha to Minneapolis, and my wife was born in somewhere in Minnesota. And so we went to visit relatives, but I had never been in something that was absolutely awesome. We're driving, summer day, and we, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, lightning, thunder, and this torrential downpour, and then hail. And it was amazing. I mean, you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you. I'm going, this is awesome. My wife's going, pull off the road. We can't see now. Oh, yeah, I should do that. So I pull off, and we, let it clear. And we come back on the road, and like 100 yards ahead of us is this ginormous tunnel where everyone else is. And I'm thinking, I just got pounded. This car just got pounded. I was so glad I was in a rental. But that unexpected storm stopped us in our tracks. We couldn't move forward. We didn't know how to move forward. We didn't have the local knowledge. And what I'm hoping to give you tonight is some local knowledge about how you can maybe have a couple more tools when it comes to these seasonal shifts. As a matter of fact, Dave said, well, what's the name of the talk that you're going to? I said, well, let's just call it Shift Happens. Here's the big idea. Life's seasonal shifts will be both expected and unexpected. Some of them are predictable, like I have kids, they're going to grow up, they're going to leave and start their own life. Those are expected. Others can just come out of nowhere, like that storm. Matter of fact, I want to read this very first verse tonight. Would you read it with me out loud, outside voices? Ready? Go. As long as the earth endures, nothing will put a stop to planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night. God has established that there's these seasons of human activity, but there's all kinds of seasons, not just fall and summer. By the way, I came here, beautiful day here today, or what? Awesome. I was so disappointed. I wanted to come to some weather, some cold and some rain and, all of that. I mean, in my house, average temperature year-round, 75, sunny. So boring. How was your winter? Okay, that wasn't in the notes. So there's relational seasons and shifts. There's emotional. There's physical. And there's spiritual. All of these are different seasons that come our way. So when seasonal shifts happen, it can be discouraging and disorienting. It can really throw you off. A career stalls, or debt is mounting, there's a health crisis, or maybe you lose someone close to you. And then it just crashes in, the grief, and you just don't see how you're going to ever get beyond it and move past it. All of these are seasons of life. And you can't control the timing, when they come, and you often can't really have any say over the duration of the timing of that seasonal shift. And sometimes you think, why is this happening? I don't understand it. And usually, when you find yourself in that place, you don't have understanding in the front end of this thing. It takes time and perspective before you begin to understand, get a greater perspective. However, some things happen in life you're just never going to understand. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says this: He does everything just right and on time. This is not talking about husbands. This is talking about God. Just thought I'd better clarify that. He does everything just right and on time, but people can never completely understand what he's doing. There's some stuff we're just never going to get while we inhabit this body of flesh and blood and bone. We're not going to get it all. I know that when I was facing at one seasonal shift in my life, panic attacks, insomnia, it was a super disorienting, depressing season. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand, God, what are you doing? Where are you? And I really felt like, well, I don't even think he cares. I really don't even think that God cares about what I am facing, what I'm going through right now. I don't feel it. I feel like he's a million miles from me if he exists at all. And then as I was in this and it didn't go away, I got angry because it wasn't fair. Because I'm a super good dude. God, you should know that. Why is this happening? It was unfair, and I just didn't know how to get past it. And so I almost became offended about everything. You know, well, what, God's blessing that person, and that ticked me off. I was just offended. And you know, that's the culture we live in today. An offended culture. You know, somebody disrespects you in any way, disagrees with you in any way, and what do? We just absolutely lose it. Whether it's road rage or social media. Somebody says something, you just go off. And it's absolutely an expression of what is lacking inside. One friend put it this way: if you're easily offended, you'll be easily defeated. Because when we allow the actions or the words of other people to determine how I feel or how I respond, I have surrendered myself to these other people. And so all of a sudden, I had a pretty good start to a day. And then someone cuts me off on the road and flips me off in the process. And now I'm not having a good day. I'm angry. And you see how these things come and we think, well, no, I should feel that way because that was wrong what he did. Well, yeah, maybe so. But now, he's long gone. But you're still carrying it. You've still got the adrenaline surging and you want to hit somebody. You've surrendered. If you're easily offended, you're going to be easily defeated. Over the years, I've talked to lots of people who got offended because they had some seasonal shift that was difficult and they felt like God failed them. And so they just said, that whole faith thing, it doesn't work. And they walk away. A discouraging season that turned the pain into anger focused at God. Now, when shift happens, it can also be encouraging and enriching and rewarding. It can be enriching and it can be rewarding. God can bring good to every season in your life. The lonely seasons, the sad seasons, the seasons of failure, the seasons of grief, all of them. He can bring good to all of them. Romans 8:28. We are confident that God is able to orchestrate everything to work towards something good and beautiful when we love him and accept his invitation to live according to his plan. Now, don't misunderstand this verse. God does not have to plan problems in my life. I create them. I'm amazing at this. He doesn't have to, how am I going to mess up his life? I mess it up. I make decisions. I make selfish choices. I do things, and I bring the vast majority of the problems in my life on myself. So God doesn't have to plan it. I bring them. See, God is not the author of pain and evil, but he can bring his purposes for good to every season that comes my way. If I will surrender the season, if I will choose to hand it over. Every season, no matter how ugly or guilty or bad it is, no matter how bitter I feel about it in the moment, God can bring good out of it. Now, it also doesn't say here in this verse that all things are good. Not all things are good. I've been around some Christians from time to time where they're just, no, you've got to watch your confession. You've got to answer your phone. Or no, excuse me. You've got to, oh, it's a beautiful song, though. Thank you. You've got to have this positive confession about everything. And if you don't have a positive confession about it, then you're not expressing faith. Dude, if me walking through life depends on me doing everything right to the formula, I am going to fail. I am not going to get the formula right. I'm going to say the wrong thing at the wrong time. But the reality is, I've heard people go, I broke my leg skiing. Praise the Lord. That's stupid. It's not a positive confession. That's a positive idiot thing to say. Okay, but we can trust him in the middle of it. This is so inconvenient. I'm going to lose time at work. I can't do the activities I want to do. Lord, I'm just going to trust that you're going to be with me in this and heal it and make it good and do something good in me while I wait here with this cast on. Okay, I can buy that. But the idea that, hallelujah, I broke my leg, that's just stupid. Don't do that. God is able to orchestrate everything to work towards something good and beautiful. Now, I'm sure that there's some of us here right now that you'd say the season that you're in is not beautiful. Maybe, your finances are ugly and your health feels bad, or your relationships are not good. You've got some tensions there. But God can make something good out of all of it if you'll give him the pieces, if you'll bring it all to him, regardless, even the stuff that was your fault. I don't know who originally said what I'm going to read, this quote. It's been attributed to several different people, so I'll just say, I've always said this. I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to reach my destination. Now, how many of you have ever been in a situation where you thought the career was headed this way, you thought the job or the business was going to work out that way, and now you've put all your eggs in that basket and it ain't working out that way? Are you able to adjust your sail and go in a new direction? Are you interruptible? Or does everything have to go precisely the way you planned it, or you're bummed? Galatians 6:9. So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. What I sow in one season, I reap in another season. You sow in the spring, you reap in the fall. It's a principle we understand. The way you respond right now to the seasonal shifts that are coming into your life is going to have a great deal to do with what you reap in the future. How you respond to this. What path would you say you're on right now in the season you're facing? How are you doing? Are you growing? I want to suggest 4 growth choices when shift happens in your life. Here's the first one. Trust in God's love and intentions for you. Trust in his love. Well, in the middle of it, falling apart. Trust in his love and his good intentions for you. It's just so very foundational that we do this if you're going to grow in every season. When you're in that long, slow, difficult season where you just don't see the end of it coming up, keep trusting. Choose to trust his love. Choose to trust, even when you don't see the outcome. And there are certain things that we can only learn through experience. You only learn them by going through them. And you're not going to learn them from books. You're not going to learn them from other people. Certain things that you got to go through yourself. Now, I'm not saying, don't read, because you can learn some good things. I'm not saying, don't look at other people's lives and learn from it. Certainly you can. But certain things are just yours to navigate. Deuteronomy 11:2 says, remember today what you have learned about the Lord through your experiences with him. One of the reasons that I trust God in my life at 63 is I've learned that he's faithful. And I've learned that by going through times when I desperately needed him to be faithful. And he showed up. Now, he didn't always show up the way I preferred. He didn't always show up when I preferred. But he always showed up. And he never actually just all of a sudden came, because he was never left. But his activity at times seems like it just takes forever. And I don't like waiting every night. Remember today what you have learned about the Lord through your experiences with him. So what does God want me to learn? Well, lots of different things. But there's one thing he wants all of us to learn. It's found here in 1 Corinthians 1. We think you ought to know, dear brothers and sisters, about the trouble we went through in the province of Asia. We were crushed and overwhelmed beyond our ability to endure. And we thought we would never live through it. In fact, we expected to die. But as a result, we stopped relying on ourselves and learned to rely only on God, who raises the dead. And he did rescue us from mortal danger. And he will rescue us again. We have placed our confidence in him, and he will continue to rescue us. There's all kinds of experiences in this life that you're going to face, that you have faced, and all of them can help teach us to completely trust in God. There's going to be times in your life when you got nothing else, no choice, and that's when you'll discover that he's all you need. When you find out he's all you got. And those are the choices we make. And I read this verse, he raises the dead. He did rescue us from mortal danger. And he will rescue us again. We have placed our confidence. Wow, that's beautiful. Apostle Paul wrote that. Well, where is he? Oh, they killed him. He did. Martyred. What about these words here? Well, I'm not going to give you some Pollyanna Christian thing that if you just have enough faith. Because guess what? Look how they treated Jesus, the perfect man. And we're told, don't be surprised if you go through difficulty and persecution, but keep trusting. Paul kept trusting. He kept trusting, and he trusted the outcome. Hey, if this is it, he says in another chapter that if it's time for me to go, cool. This is a California paraphrase of that verse. Okay, second choice. Prioritize your primary relationships. When you're in seasonal shifts, you need to focus. Prioritize your primary relationships. And our Western emphasis on independence has resulted in a plague in our country, a plague of loneliness. The problem of autonomy versus interdependence. We're afraid of the interdependence. And I'm my own person. And I deserve fill in the blank. And as a result, what we have is we're not letting people in real far. Because we want to preserve our personhood. But we're called to something far greater, this interdependence. I'll recommend a book. You may or may not remember it after you leave here, but it's called Wired for Love by a guy named Stan Tatkin. And it's about how understanding each other's brains and how they work a little bit. And specifically, it's talking about husbands and wives. But he suggests that couples, here's what he puts it, create an intimate environment that implicitly guarantees, and he has this long list, that couples need to make implicit guarantees to one another. I mean, it's in our culture today, this is crazy, and it's beautiful. I just want to give you 4 of them. Here's one implicit guarantee that you would give to your spouse. I will never leave you. An implicit guarantee. That's not a common one today. I will never leave you. Another one. I will never frighten you purposely. When you are in distress, I will relieve you, even if I'm the one causing the distress. Whew. Our relationship is more important than my need to be right. I just want to tell you something now. If you're married, you suck at this. Okay? I have failed at these. And I'm not trying to say this to shame anyone, but rather to raise your eyes, raise the bar in your own heart and life by prioritizing interdependent relationships in your life. They've got to be a priority. Interdependence promotes the confidence that I am safe and loved. And that is what we're all looking for. I'm safe and I'm loved. That's huge. But our focus on self has kind of put happiness on hold in our culture. I will be happy when. I'm going to be happy. We're always getting ready to be happy. I'm going to be so happy when, I meet, the right man and the right woman. I'm going to be so happy when I get married. And I'm going to be so happy when I'm not married. I'm going to be so happy when the kids are out of diapers. And when I have kids, when I finally have kids, then I'll be happy. When the kids move out, then I'll be happy. We're just always waiting. We're waiting and waiting and waiting to finally be happy in our lives. But the Bible teaches that we're to be thankful and joyful in the middle of whatever season we face. That we can actually experience a level of joy and gratitude and contentment in the middle of all of it. 1 Thessalonians 5, give thanks in all circumstances. This is God's will for you. Now it says, again, give thanks in them, not necessarily for them. Thank you that my wife left me, Lord. Well, that might actually be how you feel, but my wife's not here, so I can say that. Okay. When we do that, it's powerful. It's healing. But you can only make that kind of a choice if you are trusting in His love for you and His good intentions for you. When we live with that conviction that He is good all the time, even when what is happening stinks or hurts and we don't understand it. He's still good all the time. And that's what we're trusting in. Holding on to that faith, that He can bring good from this. I can't wait to see what that looks like. One of the pivotal concepts in life is that, time is life and life is short. It is, it's brief. My wife Carmen and I were having a conversation with a young lady, and she was talking about being real fearful she had 2 kids, and she just found herself being afraid that something bad was going to happen to her kids. And, as a result, she was ruining her kid's life. This helicopter hovering. I said, You got to come to the realization that whatever bad thing you're protecting them from might not hurt them as badly as what you're doing to them. It's just a thought, idea. Back off, take a Prozac and just leave them alone. Just relax a little bit. I didn't actually say that. But the idea of time short, don't miss the season you're in. With your kids, with your career, whatever season you're in, don't miss the good that God wants to bring from that particular season, that particular time. It's hugely powerful. And I said, you don't have much time left. And I looked at my wife and I said, statistically, in 20 years, she's dead. She's older than me. So 6 weeks. And so I've got a little more time statistically, 6 weeks. But it's like, we need to be a little bit more open to the reality that this is a brief life. And understand it, not be afraid of it. Sometimes we think, I've got time. I'll prioritize later. Do we ever put off anything in our life to later? I am committed to bodybuilding, but I've been kind of putting off the workouts. Yeah, you figured that out, didn't you? We put stuff off, but it goes fast. James 4:14. How do you know what will happen tomorrow? What, after all, is your life? It's like a puff of smoke, visible for a little while, and then disappearing into thin air. Wow. You have tough choices to make about what really matters in your life at this particular time in your life. You've got to make choices that are particular to the season you're in. Prioritize those relationships. I have a friend who is a pastor and one of my favorite authors. He also lives in the San Diego area, named Larry Osborne. I was at with a group of pastors at his house one day, and he was just doing some teaching, but he said sort of an offhanded comment that I wrote down. I thought it was so good. He said this: I delayed my writing career because of the time and attention required to be a dad and husband while raising a family. I now have the margin in my schedule to write, and because of the added years of life experience, I have a whole lot more to say. And I thought, that's a beautiful thing, because he's a great writer, and he had this dream of writing books. And he said, I'm going to put the dream on hold because I need to focus on these primary relationships. Folks, that is powerful. That is powerful. That means when you set those kind of priorities in your life, that you're going to be saying no to something else, maybe even good things. There's limits that you place on your life by making those kind of right choices. Philippians 4:11, I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I'm glad he said learned. Even Paul had to learn it. We have to learn how to be content. But we have so much pressure in this culture to be discontent with anything or anyone that disagrees or gets in the way of my happiness. Let it go. Live in this moment. Third choice, communicate clearly and often. And you might be thinking, oh man, you don't know what you're asking. Whenever we communicate, it's a fight. Well, then you need to communicate more because you're bad at it. You need to practice. You need to communicate clearly and often. I live in San Diego. My house is 7 miles from the border. I have a lot of friends. Matter of fact, at least half, probably more than that, of my close friends, their first language is Spanish. And so we often have these little miscommunications that are hilarious. And so we have a lot of laughs about things getting a little bit mixed up from one language to the other. Well, I was teaching one weekend. We were in a relationship series, and I did the sex talk in that. And then I'm there watching football on the couch Sunday afternoon, and I get this text from my friend. I'm just made up names just in case you ever bump into them, but we'll call her Maria. And Maria sends this text, and she sent it to me, my wife, and her husband. And it said, Mike, your sex service was so good. We should meet for dinner. When are you available? And I said to my wife, Carmen, get your phone. You got to see this. And I am just crying. We're laughing so hard. And then her husband, Juan, says, it sounds like she's hitting on you. That's my wife's English for you. And then she came back with, oh my God, I didn't mean that. And trying to, typing just as quick as she can with her thumbs to try and get out of it. Oh, so we never bring it up to her ever. Here's the thing. We all have a first language that we speak. And it's a language called self-protection. You see, because we speak and we hear through a grid of experiences and hurt and pain. And that's how we hear, that's how we speak. Do you know the words of fear or anger that trigger those kind of responses in your spouse if you're married? What are those words? You're just like your dad. You're just like your mom. You always. You never. And so you may think, oh no, I've done that, But you see, sometimes you know what the words are, and you do them on purpose, just to trigger. You have this language. You see, after you say, I do, what you're saying is, I choose you, and I choose to trust who you'll become. That's a risk. That's a hard thing. I not only choose you now, I choose to trust the choices that you will make that impact us in the future. Wow. That takes clear, regular communication to navigate life together. It just does. You may need to become bilingual. Proverbs 20. Knowing what is right is like deep water in the heart. A wise person draws from the well within. We're created to love and to hope deeply. We all need to have a sense, to be able to say with confidence, I know I'm loved. I know I'm safe. Every one of us desperately desires that. Where do we get it? How do we get there? We have a regular saying at our church in San Diego that we all are seeking to experience silence, solitude, and stillness. We must carve out moments, time, when we're just silent, in solitude, and still. Not doing anything. Just letting the busyness and the noise and the hassles and the fears take a break. Take a break. And I'm almost done. So before I am, I want you to close your eyes, and we're going to practice this. Now, if you don't trust the people around you, you might want to put your purse on your lap. But just go ahead and just close your eyes, and just, some of you, this is very hard to do. Just, I want you now to take a deep breath. One more. The last step is start today. Make the choice, whatever season you're facing, to start, to do something. Choose to trust. Prioritize. Look at your life. What do you need to do differently? But start today. Communicate with the people you love, but then practice this silence and solitude and stillness and connect with the God who loves you. Because you do not have to wait to connect with another person to begin to feel safe and loved. It begins when you make that connection with the Father who loves you, who sent his Son by the power of the Holy Spirit. Jesus, thank you that you love us so much and that you are so patient with our fears and with our mistakes and with our, at times, even belligerence. Lord, thank you that you have never quit on us. Help us, Lord, to take another step toward trusting that you are good all the time. Amen.